Good day, students. Today we are going to do INICET 2024 May sessions recall. So for all those who are now preparing for your NEET exam, all the best. INICET is your first step, and when you do your NEET, you'll be more prepared. So no matter how you have done the exam, it's the persistence that's the key. So continue preparing. So let's start the session. The first question was on the management of cyanide poisoning. So this question, we have given it as that one-page note for the last minute preparation, also just the day prior to your exam. So the options that they have given is amyl nitrate, sodium thiosulfate, and few of the students say it's glycerol, or the others say it's benzyl. So among these options, we have already seen that nitrites and thiosulfates play an important role, right? Now, the difference is this. The amyl nitrate is the preparation. Conventionally, books still give it, but in practice, not much used, where the amyl nitrate ampule is broken. It's put on a cloth and it's given as an inhalation to the patient. The use of these nitrates is nothing, but they are going to help in the formation of your methemoglobin. So what we are going to give when we are giving nitrites, okay, particularly the sodium nitrate, you're going to get methemoglobin, and this methemoglobin is going to bind with cyanide, following which we get cyan-methemoglobin. And now the cyan-methemoglobin has to be made into a form which is inactive, and the methemoglobin has to be regenerated so that more cyan-methemoglobin are produced. So for that, we are going to give thiosulfate. Right? And this thiosulfate, along with cyan-methemoglobin, is going to release the methemoglobin and going to form thiocyanate. Okay, now these both are going to get excreted in urine. So apart from it, in case of cyanide poisoning, apart from using your sodium nitrate and thiosulfate, we are also going to use your, yes, very good, vitamin B12, which is your hydroxycobalamin, right? So vitamin B12 is also being used. Okay, so these are the three mains. So let's have a quick revision as to the chemical antidotes. The ones that we have seen are atropine, which is for which we are going to give physostigmine. Important, even in datura poisoning, we are going to use this. Organophosphates, we use two things. One is atropine and pralidaxin. When we are using organocarbamates, atropine becomes more important. Okay, and similarly in organophosphate compounds, when aging has happened, pralidoxin is of no use. So when aging has happened, which means the bond between organophosphate and acetylcholinesterase is strong, pralidoxin is of no use. Okay. Then in ethylene glycol, we are going to use formimizole, followed by which the next priority agent is ethanol. And in methanol, we use ethanol. Okay, so this again, we are stressing on it. In methanol, you will use ethanol. Methanol is more toxic because it's forming formic acid, right? And that's going to cause blindness and other features, right? So you want to prevent that, you're going to use ethanol. Opioids, naloxone and nalorphine and nalmefene and all these compounds are used. Benzodiazepine, lumazenil. When you use paracetamol, it's going to be N-acetylcysteine. Cyanide, we have seen. Right? Okay. Then apart from it, any form of blood hemoglobinemia, nitrates and nitrites and all these kinds of compounds, we are going to use methylene blue. Okay. Insulin, glucose is easy, and whenever asphyxiants like carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, okay, so all these things we are going to use hyperbaric oxygen, okay, because you're going to get the production of carboxyhemoglobin. Here you're going to get sulfhemoglobin, right? So these are all binding to hemoglobin. Carboxyhemoglobin has 200 times more affinity. So you give a hyperbaric oxygen, that becomes the treatment plan. Okay. In heavy metals, chelating agents are used. Heavy metals includes your lead, mercury, copper, iron, arsenic, right? The common chelating agents we have studied are 5. The easiest is for iron, desferro. Ferro is there. For copper, it's dipencilamine. Lead, calcium disodium EDTA. Okay, so they can give it as calcium disodium EDTA. Okay, and then you have succimer. Succimer is the oral preparation of your dimer cation. Okay, it's your oral preparation of your dimer cation. Okay, yes. Digitalis and your succimer and BAL, British anti-lewisite, is used in MAL, right? Mercury, arsenic, and lead, most common agent. Then digitalis, digibind, right? Which is nothing but your digoxin immune family. Okay. Then isoniazid, prilidoxin, and methotrexate, you have folinic acid. Okay, so this is going to be your line of treatment. Let's see the next, declarations. Declarations, again, we have seen through it with traumatology, and we have seen the mnemonic as O goes for abortion. O goes for abortion. That's the one that we have seen with. The other mnemonics which we have seen also are, when we say torture, it's Tokyo. Human experimentation, H, Helsinki. And hunger we saw, hunger is going to produce malnutrition, and with M we remembered Malta. Okay, Malta. So let's look into these declarations so that next time when they come, if they come, we are all prepared. Okay, so Geneva or Hippocrates Oath. Hippocrates Oath, we all know it's about ethics. Tokyo, T, torture. Helsinki, human experimentation. Okay. Oslo, abortion, therapeutic abortion. Particularly, they spoke about therapeutic abortion. Malta, hunger strike. Sydney, yes, brainstem. Venice is a beautiful place, right? And there we remember terminal illness. And Astana, okay, there they spoke about primary health care. Okay, so in 2018, they spoke about primary health care. So these are the declarations. Okay, let's see the next question. The correct sequence of opening the body cavity. The correct sequence of opening a body cavity. See, it's all in nooks and places which we put together. In case of poisoning, cranium becomes the first one. Okay, so in general, it is recommended to open the cranium. And then in fetus, we did study that, like, you open the abdomen and feel the level of diaphragm first, right? Like, you open the abdomen and you feel the level of diaphragm. So your second becomes your abdomen, and the last becomes your thorax. Okay, last becomes your thorax. So even if you know, like, abdomen followed by it is the thorax that come in, you would have only doubt with this or this, but cranium always goes first. We preferably ask to open for cranium. So with that, cranium, abdomen, and thorax becomes the answer. Okay, let's see the next question. Match the following. Okay, this match the following we already were prepared with. Prochurism, FRO, right? F-R-O. Okay, fraudurism. There is only confusion between two things. One is fetichism and another is fraudurism, right? F-E-T, fetichism. T is where we saw T, there is think, inanimate object. So they are going to go for some things, right? F-R, R goes for rubbing. Okay, so this one goes for rubbing. Yes. Okay, and eonism also we have seen through it. Okay, eonism also we have seen through it. Okay, go with the easier ones so that you can solve the other ones easily. Okay, pain, inflicting pain on someone is called as sadism. Okay, so you have sadism where you're inflicting pain, and you have masochism where they get pain. And a combination of these both is known as alcoholemia. Right? So this goes over here. Narcophilia goes for intercourse. Narcophilia goes for intercourse with a dead person. Narco means dead. Okay. And eonism is nothing but transvestism. Eonism is nothing but transvestism. Okay. So this is nothing but transvestism. Okay, so again, let's revise through the questions that have come once so that we are well prepared and all set. Okay. So sadism means inflicting pain. So that's why we call sadist. It's a common English word, which means a person who is rude to another person. So they inflict pain. Okay. The extreme forms of it is lust murder, where a person kills another person. Narcophagia, eating the flesh of another person. Narcophilia, right? All of these are extreme forms of it. Next, you have masochism. Masochism means they will inflict pain on themselves or either by themselves or asking their partner to do this. Okay. Algorithmia is nothing but a combination of it. It's a combination of it. Then you have sexting, text, text. Okay. Fetish, thing. It's an inanimate object. We are talking about a thing. Then FR, rub. Okay, particularly the genitals. And then you have voyeurism. Voyeurism is peeping Tom, looking into a person while a person is in his private act. Okay, so voyeurism is peeping Tom. Then you have transvestism or eonism. So we've seen eonism, dressing in the clothes of opposite sex, particularly the undergarment, undergarments. Okay, then we have undinism, and in undinism, the person gets stimulated with water, and uralgia means even the sight or thought of urine. So when you have uro means we are talking about urine. Then you have copro means we are talking about feces. Okay. Trialism means when we are seeing someone, when a person sees another person involved in a sexual activity, right? That is called as trialism. All of these are nothing but sexual perversions or sexual paraphilias. Okay, which means a person gets sexual gratification. Okay, the person gets a sexual gratification other than by normal ways. Okay. Okay, then you have satirism and nymphomania. Satirism means in male. Okay, satirism in male. Excessive sexual drive in male is called as satirism. Nymphomania means excessive sexual desire in female. Nympho means it is indicative of female. Okay, next one. Which of the following is not seen in Korsakoff psychosis? Okay. So in Korsakoff psychosis, one of the features we see is confabulation. The feature is confabulation, right? So confabulation is what? the person forgets something. Okay, so he's having amnesia. He's filling that gap with some memory. That is called as confabulation. Okay, so right now I remember everything, and then I don't remember what is going to happen from now on, right? Anterograde amnesia. So here I have got a trauma. From there on, if I don't remember, it's anterograde amnesia. So here a person is having a thiamine deficiency due to alcoholism, and from here he is not able to remember much things. So what does he do? He fills his memory with many things. Okay, so that is called as confabulation. So of course, when we say about confabulation, there is amnesia is there. Okay, confabulation is there. These both are there. Okay, and neuritis is also there. So when patient has polyneuritis, also the only option is ophthalmoplegia. This ophthalmoplegia is a part of Wernicke's encephalopathy, where in Wernicke's encephalopathy, we go to Goa, right? The person has all ataxia, ophthalmoplegia, global confusion, right? So all of these goes for Wernicke's encephalopathy, not for Korsakoff psychosis. Okay. So chronic liver, when we saw about chronic alcoholism, we saw about physical deterioration, mental deterioration, and also moral deterioration. So three deteriorations we saw. Then we said about physical deterioration, we said like it would range from a simple atrophic gastritis to liver damage to neuropathies. They do develop neuropathies. Then moral deterioration, particularly the jealousy, right? Alcohol-induced jealousy, criminal tendencies and addiction. Okay, criminal tendencies, addictions and alcohol jealousy. Mental deterioration, three things. Delirium tremens with withdrawal it is seen. Acute alcohol-induced hallucination with is an emergency condition. It ranges from a simple suicide to a homicidal tendency. And last is Korsakoff psychosis. The patient can go into Korsakoff psychosis. Okay, then alcohol and sudden death. Generally, patients die mainly because of alcohol-associated trauma, but patient might also develop ventricular arrhythmia. He can also have postural hypoxia. He can aspirate his own food, or violent activities can precipitate a cardiac arrest also in alcoholic patient. Okay. Then postmortem appearance, we have degenerative changes which happen in the liver, and we have Munich pure heart. Okay. Then alcohol and putrefaction, we have up to 20 to 30 milligram, a mixture of ethyl and other alcohols are formed. Having said this, let's also remember, as per Motor Vehicle Act, to drive, okay, to drive, the permissible limit is less than 30 microgram, less than 30 milligram per dl. Okay, then fractures and skull bone. Okay, two more questions. Fractures and skull bone. Let's see. Now, this was a fracture. I was told a full dry skull was given, and there was a central hole. So, bullet, right? See, if it is a hammer, it's going to be a depressed fracture. If it is a hammer, it's going to be a depressed fracture. If it's going to be a rod, a similar kind of a depressed fracture can be produced, or a comminuted fracture. Scissors, comminuted, right? These depressed fracture, also remember, they can mimic the object that is producing it. They can mimic the object that is producing it. That is called as signature fracture. That is called as signature fracture. Okay, so let's look into the skull fracture images, other images which can be asked. This is a linear fracture. When the linear fracture goes through the sutural bones, when it passes through the suture, so here it's passing through the cranial suture, and this is called as the diastatic fracture. Okay, so here it's passing through the coronal suture. Then we have comminuted suture, comminuted fracture. This is like a concentric ring, right? Concentric fracture. depressed fracture. So here you can say it. It's a depressed fracture. Okay. So it's a depressed fracture produced by a hammer. So in this case, you can say very clearly that this is a depressed fracture which is produced by a hammer. Okay. And here you have in a child when you're seeing and there is like a dent, right? Now, this dent is due to a pond fracture. Now, what is this pond fracture? This pond fracture is nothing but, so you have forceps which is applied, and this forceps, when it is applied, there's going to be a green stick fracture. This part gets fractured on the like goes inside, and this part fractures. Here it fractures, right? So this is called as a pond fracture. So similar to a depressed fracture, if you get it in a child, it is called as the pond fracture. Okay. The next one. This is a bullet which has grazed through. This is called as the gutter fracture, where the outer table is rough but the inner table is intact. Next, you have the keyhole fracture. Keyhole fracture. Again, these both are produced by bullets. Right? These both are produced by bullets. Okay. Base of skull. When we say about base of skull, only two fractures we have to remember. One is the hinge fracture and the other is the ring fracture. Now, ring fracture is a indirect fracture. So it generally happens due to fall from height. And here you can see it around the foramen magnum, it is formed. So here you can see it, it's the ring fracture around the foramen magnum, it is formed. And it's when the bone piece is removed, it's almost like a ring. Like the foramen magnum is center, and then you have the bone piece. So that's why it's called as the ring fracture. Or this is one again, like when you see the base of the skull, think mainly only of two fractures. Either it's a hinge fracture or a ring fracture. Around foramen magnum, ring fracture. Ring fracture most commonly fall from height. When the person lands on his buttocks or when the person lands on his heel, the pressure is going to get transported upside. Okay. Next you have is the hinge fracture. Now hinge fracture happens particularly in motorcyclists. That is why this hinge fracture type 1 is also known as the motorcyclist fracture. Now, how will this fracture look? Why is this fracture? This is a hinge, right? This is a hinge. Now you can open the skull like this. It is broken into two halves, front and back. Okay. One pitches to another pitches, it's type 1, and that is motorcyclist fracture. Okay. Okay. The last two, this one is produced due to chop. And when we studied about fracture, we also saw the Pape's rule. Now, what is Pape's rule? Pape's rule says that first fracture line A, okay, will not let the second fracture line B to cross. This is called as Pape's rule. Okay, so the second fracture line will not cross the first fracture line. So the first fracture line, when it is there is a gap, and this first fracture line will not let the second one to cross it. So that is Pape's rule. Okay, the last question. This was a question which few students found it tricky. When you saw the word rodenticide, many of the students have gone with aluminum phosphide. But one thing that we even discussed in our class is these are available as tablets. Aluminum phosphide is generally available as tablets. Okay, so that is one thing that they have given it as a subtle indicator. The other indicator that we would go with is the potassium level. Okay, so aluminum phosphide and zinc phosphide both produces phosphine gas only. So both are known to cause some amount of hypokalemia, but maximum hypokalemia, massive hypokalemia is seen with barium. This you can see. So this hypokalemia mainly points towards barium. Okay. So 3.5 to 5.5 is the normal potassium level. When we see hypokalemia, severe hypokalemia, white color powder. So even zinc phosphide can be as powder, but white color powder is barium. This is Goldfrank's reference. It's a toxicology standard book reference, and this is quoted from that. And you can see this hypokalemia is seen. Okay. Now, why this barium causes hypokalemia is two mechanisms. One, it affects the it inhibits the calcium associated your potassium channel. So what happens is there's going to be more of potassium intracellular. Another is it also affects the sodium potassium ATPase. So here what happens is, again, the potassium is intracellular. Okay. So all of these leads to severe hypokalemia. Okay, so that is one thing. Again, any metal phosphides, particularly after oral poisoning, hypokalemia is common, but they need not be massive hypokalemia. Okay, so that is one hypokalemia clue has taken it towards barium. Okay. So with that, we will finish our session. All the best. Continue reading. Your next exam is coming. It's the persistence that's the key. It's the focus that's the key. You're persistent. You're focused. Nothing can stop you. Okay. So all the best to you all. Thank you.